Hey there, everyone. It's your boy Alex, kind of doing a late night video that's going to be uploaded tomorrow on, mostly my YouTube channel real quick. This is a little something that I needed to explain in an earlier video. So if you guys didn't see my last video post, this talked about basically, Warner Brothers canceling a third installment to the Space Jam movie. We were going to get a third Space Jam film, but sadly, if I'm going to be honest, I don't think that was ever going to happen. I mean, the franchise, the possibility of a Space Jam franchise was sadly killed by Space Jam: A New Legacy. Now, again, don't get me wrong. I definitely think, it's an average movie. It's not really a sequel. It's more or less a cash grab remake of the first movie, even though they don't really reference the first movie. They just show it that it exists, but it's now set in the Warner Brothers universe. I don't know what they were thinking there. So, I have a little surprise. I am actually currently working on my own Space Jam 2 sequel. Now, it's not going to be animated or filmed, which sadly, but I would love to see it get filmed. But I definitely think it's something that we all deserve as a Space Jam sequel. And I'm going to show it to you guys. And first, I wanted to give you a much better look at the poster I made. Ended up getting images of both LeBron and Jordan in their jerseys. Well, the old jersey from the 1996 film for Jordan and all that. And of course, the two love interests here. Yeah, love interest. I'll get to that in a second. But right now, I want to introduce you to Space Jam 2 Swackhammer's Revenge, or Swackhammer. I think we're going to pronounce it Swackhammer because that's how it's not really pronounced in the movie, but it's kind of pronounced there, but I'll explain later. But for right now, let me give you the rundown synopsis of what I think would have been a decent sequel-worthy movie for Space Jam. Just saying. Okay, so picture this. We open Space Jam 2 with where the first movie ended off, with Swackhammer getting blasted off into space and landing on the moon, on one of Wile E. Coyote's rockets that he had left behind somewhere on the court. I don't even know where he left that behind. And he's approached by two alien officers who recognize Swackhammer and arrest him. And they take him to this maximum security prison that's on the moon. I mean, if a planet could have an entire theme park on the moon, why can't, not the moon, but on a random planet, then why can't the moon have a maximum security prison? And we cut to MJ now basically getting back into basketball. Now, I'm going to say that this movie is sort of set a few, I want to say it could be set a few years after the first movie, or more or less a few months after the events of the first movie, where, MJ's back to basketball because the Looney Tunes helping him, and we see that the Looney Tunes are just, enjoying their time in Toonland, actually missing Michael, visiting them, or wanting them to get visited by him. And the Nerdlooks are kind of having a little hard time adjusting to being in Toonland with the other Toons, considering what happened in the first movie and whatnot. Meanwhile, while that's going on, Swackhammer actually gets a free phone call, but he calls up an old colleague of his that actually helps him break out of the prison, and this happens to be his old colleague, a sort of war general alien leading an armada to conquer galaxies. Fun fact, this alien is actually the original design for Swackhammer in the original concept art for Space Jam. And another fun fact, he was voiced by Mel Brooks instead of Danny DeVito. So, if it's possible, honestly, I would be happy if my story gets made into a Space Jam sequel, a true Space Jam 2 sequel. We could have literally Mel Brooks come and voice the character. He's probably very old by now, but he can still do it. He can still voice the character. And at this point, he takes him back to his old theme park, which is run down after Swackhammer pretty much left. Business died. I mean, let's be honest, the business already died halfway. And this is the point where Swackhammer puts into motion his plan for revenge against the Looney Tunes and Michael Jordan, whatnot. So anyway, after all of that, we then come back to Michael, who, by the way, has actually done a charity event for a local organization to help handicapable kids, become basketball stars, teach them about basketball and all that. And the tournament charity thing actually happens to have LeBron James starring in it. Yeah, this movie would actually have both LeBron James and Michael Jordan starring in it as two basketball legends in it. and an original character of mine who's a famous female basketball star for the WNBA. Gotta get that representation in there as well. So they're pretty much hanging out while off screen. Michael ends up actually going back to Toonland, thanks to the help of Marvin the Martian and some of his technology and everything. But Michael's kids also happen to show up in Toonland, so this is kind of crazy, but they already kind of had the feeling that the Toons did exist, even though they were told it was just a dream that they had, possibly. But, they already know that they exist. While that's going on, Swackhammer puts his plan into motion to basically set up a sort of fun fake carnival that brings kids and adults alike together. But this happens to be actually a plan to kidnap, well, not really kidnap humans yet, but managed to kidnap the biggest NBA stars in the world, that being, Larry Bird, Charles Barkley, all of them. It's kind of sad to think that, they basically get used in some evil, twisted game of an evil alien from outer space. Second time, basically. But it's not only that. Michael's kids end up getting kidnapped by Swackhammer, and he forces Michael into a sort of one-on-one basketball game against Swackhammer. Now, of course, Swackhammer cheats and actually ends up using a new team of Monstar-like aliens. But he ended up branding him as his own team called the Swack Squad. Yeah, you knew it was going to happen. But this is something really interesting that I don't think a sequel to Space Jam could possibly pull off. That being that somehow Swackhammer has turned these big time basketball stars into his own personal alien basketball team. It's kind of crazy when you think about it. So in the end, Michael ends up losing the basketball game, but Swackhammer is not done with him. As it turns out, Michael ends up getting brainwashed in this movie. So he is forced to work for Swackhammer into this. And I will tell you this in part 2 because this video was going to be way too long. So I will post a part 2 to it and I will post the full video onto my YouTube as best as I can. Bye. Alright, as promised, here is part 2 to the rest of my version of Space Jam 2. So, after Michael was apparently brainwashed, Swackhammer let the 3 kids go. His 3 kids from the first movie, I probably should have mentioned that in part 1. They end up finding LeBron and the OC girl that I came up with. I remember I named her Anita, maybe. Anita something. I'll still figure out, like I said, I'm still working on it, so I'm going to figure out the last name. So they end up talking to the kids. They try to explain everything. LeBron and them are, thinking they're crazy, that, they're just they're just missing their dad. The kids end up actually going to, home, and Michael's wife is just, lost and distraught after Michael happens. But this is where Swackhammer's second phase of the plan comes in. He basically uses a machine to basically kidnap every single human in the entire world, hold them hostage, and is able to materialize an entire stadium for himself in the middle of the city that Michael and all the kids and his wife live in. And pretty much everyone in the rest of the world. And he also manages to hack the broadcast system to the news and everything, and basically tells the world that he's kidnapped Michael Jordan, all the basketball stars, and pretty much half the population. And if they don't meet his demands by bringing the Looney Tunes, he's gonna rule the world, basically. So the Toons get word of this, and they basically have a plan. But there's also a slight problem. Half of their friends were also captured as well while this was going on, while they were basically getting the kids and making sure they were okay. So, it is up to Bugs, Lola, Daffy, and a few handful of Toons, plus Michael's kids, plus LeBron James and the OC character, to basically form a new team of the Toon Squad to basically challenge Swackhammer to one final basketball game to save the entire world and save Michael Jordan. So, that is basically my plot line for Space Jam 2, Swackhammer's Revenge. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. I definitely think I might have a really good idea for how I feel this should have been the Space Jam 2 that we got for the series. And let me know how you think I could fix the poster for this. Just let me know in the comment section down below. Anyways, I'll see you guys next time.